In the ancient land of Canaan, a vast and sprawling territory known for its fertile lands and nomadic tribes, lived Jacob. He was a patriarch, a leader, a man blessed with a large family. Jacob had 12 sons, each born from different mothers within his household, but among them, Joseph, the firstborn son of his beloved wife Rachel, held a special place in Jacob's heart. Rachel was the woman he truly loved, and Joseph was a constant reminder of that love. Joseph was not just a son, he was the apple of his father's eye, the recipient of Jacob's unwavering affection and attention. Their bond was strong, a paternal connection that was evident to everyone around them. To outwardly express his deep and abiding love, Jacob decided to bestow upon Joseph a gift, a token of his special favor that would set him apart from his brothers. This gift was no ordinary garment, it was a magnificent multicolored coat, a breathtaking display of craftsmanship and vibrant hues. It was unlike anything his other sons possessed. The coat was more than just a piece of clothing. It was a symbol of special favor, a visible representation of Jacob's preference for Joseph. It signified a unique status, a position of privilege within the family. Joseph, young and perhaps a little naive, wore the coat proudly, displaying it with a sense of youthful exuberance and innocent joy. He didn't fully grasp the implications of his father's gift. The coat's vibrant colors, a kaleidoscope of reds, blues, greens, and golds, served to highlight him, setting him apart from his brothers, who were clad in much simpler attire. His brothers, weathered and hardened by their work as shepherds, typically wore plain, functional tunics of brown and beige, clothing designed for practicality rather than aesthetics. The coat was far more than just a piece of clothing. It was a statement, a declaration of Jacob's love and Joseph's elevated status within the family hierarchy. In the eyes of his father, and perhaps in his own mind, it marked Joseph as the chosen son, the one destined for greatness, the heir apparent to Jacob's legacy. But this overt display of favoritism, this tangible symbol of Jacob's preference, sparked a dangerous fire of jealousy and resentment among his brothers. Every time they were forced to witness Joseph parading around in the coat, flaunting his father's affection, the seeds of bitterness took root and began to grow. With each passing day, their resentment grew, festering beneath the surface like a hidden wound, poisoning their hearts and minds against their younger brother. They began to whisper among themselves, plotting and scheming in hushed tones, their conversations filled with envious barbs and thinly veiled threats. The brothers found themselves increasingly unable to speak kindly to him, their words laced with sarcasm and disdain, their interactions marked by coldness and hostility. The coat, originally meant as a gesture of love, a symbol of paternal affection, had inadvertently become a catalyst for discord and animosity within the family. Instead of fostering unity and harmony, it became a source of division, driving a wedge between Joseph and his brothers, fracturing the bonds that once held them together. The brothers, consumed by jealousy and a sense of injustice, began to see Joseph not as a brother, a member of their shared family, but as a rival, a competitor for their father's love and attention. He was no longer one of them, but an outsider, an unwelcome presence who threatened their position within the family dynamic. As time went on, their envy deepened, festering and growing like a malignant tumor, consuming their thoughts and actions. The family's unity, once a source of strength and stability, began to unravel, the threads of kinship fraying and breaking under the weight of resentment and bitterness. What began as a father's loving gift, a simple gesture of affection intended to bring joy, was about to unleash a torrent of unforeseen consequences. This seemingly innocent act would soon ignite a chain of events, a series of fateful occurrences that would irrevocably alter the course of their lives. The events that were about to unfold would change all their lives in ways they could never have imagined, testing their bonds of brotherhood and challenging their very understanding of family. The stage was now set, the players in place, and the atmosphere thick with tension. Betrayal was brewing, a storm gathering on the horizon, ready to break with devastating force. Joseph's dreams only fueled his brothers' anger. He told them, "We were binding sheaves and your sheaves bowed to mine." The brothers sneered, "Will you really rule over us?" Then Joseph dreamed again. "The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed to me." Even Jacob was troubled, but he pondered the meaning. For the brothers, these dreams were proof of Joseph's pride. Their hatred grew, and they resolved to act. Joseph's dreams became the final spark. Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers in the fields. Wearing his special coat, Joseph journeyed to Dothan. From afar, his brothers saw him coming, the hated coat unmistakable. "Here comes that dreamer," they said, plotting his demise. "Let's kill him and see what becomes of his dreams." Reuben intervened. "Don't shed blood. Throw him into this cistern." Secretly, Reuben planned to rescue Joseph later. The brothers agreed, seeing a way to rid themselves of Joseph without direct violence. Their jealousy had turned to betrayal. Joseph, unaware, walked into their trap. The family's fracture was about to become irreversible. The brothers seized Joseph, tore off his coat, and threw him into an empty cistern. Ignoring his pleas, they sat down to eat. A caravan of Ishmaelite traders appeared. Judah suggested, "Let's sell him instead of killing him." They sold Joseph for 20 shekels of silver. The traders took Joseph to Egypt as a slave. The brothers' envy had destroyed their family's peace. Joseph's life was forever changed. Joseph arrived in Egypt, stripped of everything, yet the Lord was with him. Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard, bought Joseph. Joseph worked diligently, and God blessed all he did. Potiphar noticed Joseph's integrity and success. He promoted Joseph, putting him in charge of his entire household. Under Joseph's management, Potiphar's house flourished. Joseph, once a slave, became master of the house. He chose faith over bitterness. God was quietly shaping Joseph's destiny. The boy betrayed by his brothers was rising again. The story was far from over. Joseph, through his hard work and dedication, prospered greatly in Potiphar's house. He quickly became a trusted servant, managing the household with skill and integrity. Potiphar recognized Joseph's exceptional abilities and placed him in charge of all his affairs. But as it often happens in life, trouble found him again, lurking just around the corner, ready to test his resolve. A dark cloud began to form on the horizon, threatening the peace and prosperity he had found. Potiphar's wife, captivated by Joseph's handsome appearance and virtuous character, tried relentlessly to seduce him, attempting to sway him from his righteous path. She made advances, using her position and influence to tempt him. But Joseph, unwavering in his commitment to his master and his faith, steadfastly refused her advances, choosing integrity over temptation. He knew that succumbing to her desires would be a betrayal of trust and a sin against God. He remained loyal to his master Potiphar, and above all, to God, holding firm to his principles even in the face of immense pressure. His faith was his shield, protecting him from the allure of sin. Rejected and scorned, she, consumed by anger and spite, falsely accused him of the very act he had resisted. Her wounded pride turned into a venomous plot to destroy Joseph's reputation and standing. In a calculated act of deception, she used his cloak, which he had left behind in his haste to escape her advances, as fabricated evidence to support her malicious claims. Potiphar, blinded by rage and consumed by the lies of his wife, tragically believed her false accusations without question or investigation. His trust in Joseph, once so strong, was shattered in an instant. In a fit of anger, Potiphar had Joseph thrown into the king's prison, a dark and forbidding place reserved for the worst offenders against the crown. Once again, through no fault of his own, he lost everything, his freedom, his position, and his reputation, all for doing what was right and upholding his moral principles. In the oppressive darkness of the dungeon, surrounded by despair and uncertainty, Joseph found himself alone with his thoughts and his faith. Joseph's faith, the bedrock of his character, was severely tested by the injustice and hardship he faced. Would he succumb to bitterness and resentment, or would he continue to trust in God's plan? He had experienced a dramatic fall from grace, going from being his father's favored son to a slave in a foreign land, stripped of his birthright and his freedom. He had gone from being a master, overseeing Potiphar's household, to a prisoner, confined within the cold stone walls of the king's jail. Yet, even in the confines of prison, amidst the despair and hopelessness, something remarkable began to emerge. Joseph's inherent goodness, his unwavering integrity, and his compassionate spirit shone brightly, illuminating the darkness around him. Despite the circumstances, the Lord was still with him, guiding him, strengthening him, and preparing him for what was to come. Joseph's journey, filled with unexpected twists and turns, took another unforeseen and challenging detour. But his story, far from being over, was still being written, with each chapter revealing new depths of his character and God's unwavering faithfulness. Even in chains, hope remained, a beacon of light in the darkness, promising that even the most difficult trials could lead to extraordinary triumphs. In prison, Joseph earned the warden's trust and was put in charge of the other inmates. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and baker were imprisoned with him. Both had troubling dreams. Joseph said, "Interpretations belong to God. Tell me your dreams." The cupbearer dreamed of 3 branches restored to serve Pharaoh. Joseph interpreted, "In 3 days you'll be restored. Remember me." The baker's dream foretold his execution. Joseph's interpretations proved true, yet when freed, the cupbearer forgot Joseph. Joseph remained in prison, unjustly forgotten, but God had not forgotten him. 2 years later, within the imposing walls of the Egyptian palace, life continued its rhythm of power and intrigue. But beneath the surface of opulent feasts and grand ceremonies, a sense of unease began to stir. Pharaoh himself was plagued by troubling dreams, vivid and unsettling visions that left him restless and deeply concerned. Night after night, he tossed and turned, seeking answers in the realm of sleep, only to be met with cryptic symbols and foreboding omens. These were not mere nightmares. They felt like messages, warnings from the gods themselves. No one in the royal court, not the wisest scholars nor the most skilled magicians, could interpret these dreams or offer any solace. The weight of the unknown pressed heavily upon the pharaoh's mind, casting a shadow over his reign. It was then, in a moment of unexpected clarity, that the cupbearer, a man who had once served alongside Joseph in the prison, finally remembered the young Hebrew's remarkable ability to interpret dreams. The memory, long buried beneath the daily routines of palace life, resurfaced with a sudden urgency. Joseph was summoned from the depths of the royal dungeon, the place where he had languished for years, seemingly forgotten by the world. Before being presented to Pharaoh, Joseph was given a chance to cleanse himself of the prison grime. He was bathed, his hair was cut, and he was dressed in clean linen, transforming him from a forgotten prisoner into a presentable figure fit for the royal court. Standing before the mighty ruler, Pharaoh described his dreams, recounting the strange visions that had haunted his sleep. 7 fat and healthy cows grazing peacefully by the Nile, followed by 7 gaunt and sickly cows that devoured the healthy ones. He spoke of full, ripe heads of grain, bursting with life, suddenly consumed by withered, scorched stalks, leaving nothing but barren fields. Joseph, listening intently, replied with unwavering confidence, "It is not in me, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he seeks." He then proceeded to explain the meaning of the dreams with divine insight. The 7 healthy cows and the 7 full heads of grain represent 7 years of great abundance and prosperity throughout the land of Egypt. Joseph continued, "But these years of plenty will be followed by 7 years of severe famine, a time of unprecedented hardship and scarcity that will consume all the surplus of the good years." Joseph, demonstrating not only his ability to interpret dreams, but also his practical wisdom, advised Pharaoh to appoint a wise and discerning man to oversee the collection and storage of grain during the years of abundance, preparing for the inevitable famine. Pharaoh was deeply impressed, not only by the interpretation of his dreams, but also by the young man's foresight and strategic thinking. He recognized in Joseph a rare combination of wisdom, understanding, and a clear connection to the divine. Recognizing his exceptional qualities, Pharaoh made Joseph second in command over all of Egypt, entrusting him with the responsibility of saving the nation from the impending famine. Joseph, who had once been a slave, betrayed and sold into bondage, and then a forgotten prisoner languishing in the darkness, now stood as the most powerful man in Egypt, second only to Pharaoh himself, wielding authority and influence over the entire land. The dreams he had as a youth, the visions of his brothers bowing before him, were now, against all odds, coming true in a way he could never have imagined. Joseph's unwavering faith, his steadfast integrity, and his God-given ability had lifted him from the depths of despair and brought him to the pinnacle of power, from the pit to the palace. The future of Egypt and the lives of its people were now in his capable hands, a testament to the power of faith and the extraordinary ways in which destiny can unfold. Joseph's wise leadership saved Egypt and surrounding nations from famine. His brothers came to buy grain, bowing before him, not recognizing him. When Joseph revealed himself, they were terrified. But Joseph forgave them, saying, "God sent me ahead to save lives. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Joseph's journey from betrayal to power became a testament to faith and forgiveness. What began as a story of envy ended in redemption. God's purpose triumphed over human schemes. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, like this video, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us create more inspiring content.